And yeah, we've got. I'll just make a point around the items. We're doing items 8, 10, and 11 at 10 a.m. when one of our staff members will be present. Public excluded. 12:30. Lunch 1 to 2. But given the size of the agenda, it may be possible to be completed by then as well. We had a discussion about items 6 and 7 beforehand, and it occurred to us that there is a recommendation in item 7 that would mean that it would make sense to deal with item 7 first and then deal with item 6. So I'm not sure who's here to deal with the 2 items on the road closures. Oh, right. Would you like to come forward? Right.
My name's Philip Basher. I authored the reports.
Can I tell you why we want to deal with item 6 first? 7. Item 7 first is because, sorry, I need my glasses. It's because because of staff recommendation 4, request staff arrange a briefing by CCDU to update the council on the current status and future requirements of the Central City projects to include the roading requirements, i.e. road stops and new road creation. And the 5.7 in the content of the paper talks about that receiving reports on a piecemeal basis isn't actually a good basis for decision making. And so we wanted to deal with this recommendation first before we dealt with the other one, because we absolutely think it's vital that we have that briefing.
Yeah. Can I apologise for the fact that there are 2 reports? Unfortunately, the first one had been set on motion when we got the second request for the Metro Sports Centre, and we felt at that time that we would add this proposed recommendation so that the council were better informed on the process and what will be required in the future.
Yeah,
that was our thinking.
You know, that's fine. I think it's a much better process, because I agree with the staff comment that it seems crazy to be dealing with this on a piecemeal basis. It really ought to be done in a comprehensive way that we can fully understand. But I think, should we traverse the 2 papers together then, if that's the case?
In an ideal world, I would have made one report for the...
Yeah. So we'll deal with items 6 and 7 at the same time. The first question that I think that I have is, when it says that we support the CCDU to proceed, we wondered whether that was better simply to note the intention of CCDU to proceed, because they're not asking for our permission, are they?
No, they're not.
No.
I don't think that's a problem. I mean, yes, essentially we're just noting what their request, or their proposal, should I say. It's not a request even. It's just that they're obliged to tell us as the road controlling authority that's what they want to do and where they want to stop roads in the central city. Well, anywhere. In fact, it applies to anywhere in Canterbury, but I think it's been...
So they have absolute power over the stopping of roads under that section of the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Act,
yes.
And it's over the entire Greater Christchurch area.
Well, I think it says Canterbury actually in the Act. However Canterbury is defined in the Act. I mean, it is the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Act.
Yeah, but it only covers Greater Christchurch.
Well, I mean...
We could find that out for you. Yeah. I don't have the legislation in front of me.
No,
they've got the powers to stop these roads. They do, obviously, from our perspective, the Margaret Mayhew's built. So that's basically why that report's here. Secondly, here it goes.
It does.
It is in Greater Christchurch. You're correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the concerns that if we were normally stopping a road ourselves, would we do a traffic safety audit? I mean, what would be you know, what I'm asking is, what would be our prerequisite for making these decisions normally, and what does what does CCDU do? Because I assume that they've done some sort of traffic safety audit. I mean, I drove past there the other day, and I have to say I was a little bit concerned about the traffic around Margaret Mayhew.
I can't answer if they've done one. Normally road stoppings that I deal with tend to be just small plots of land generally attached in front of property, and we don't safety audit those. They're the only ones I've really been involved with, apart from these ones coming from CCDU. Yes, we would certainly take into account road safety if it was necessary. I say them isn't an issue. I mean, there are other issues about whether we can, whether it landlocks somebody's plot, whether there's issues about whether if it's on the coast, that it has to become Esplanade Reserve and vested in the council. And there's also issues of the underground services as well, whether they need to be diverted or whether an easement arranged. I understand in this case there are underground services, and we have asked, they have offered that easements will be put in place to allow work to be done on those underground services. But I don't know, I can't answer whether they've done safety audit or not.
Right.
One of the roles for safety audits, so quite often, is at the consenting stage. So if you've got a big development, a supermarket or something, a safety, if they were involving the shutting of a road, we would do a safety audit as part of that consenting process, not necessarily as part of the road stopping process. So certainly if there are issues around road safety, we will obviously be monitoring, but certainly happy to take those concerns and have a look at them.
It's busier than some supermarkets I've seen. Yeah. Paul?
You mentioned around services. If there are any works that need to be done to those services, do we incur any costs through that?
Normally, no, if it's part of their development. If they have to move a service or anything like that as part of their development, they pay for that.
And secondly, just with regard to areas where there may well be residents, like on item 7, there's issues around they're going to have to create a new easement for people to get in and out of their properties, otherwise they'll be landlocked. So
yeah, that's correct.
Do they consult with that community?
They have to consult with the adjoining properties that are affected. Normally with any road stopping, it would be under the Local Government Act, but under the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Act 2011, the powers under Section 46 allow the Chief Executive to close or divert any road.
They don't have to actually consult with the community to do that?
No.
No, they don't, with the wider community.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just basically was just interested to understand in terms of Balfour Terrace, are we acquiring property to make a new road? And is that part of the Metro Sports land that the Crown has already bought, or is it separate property, additional?
It is. We aren't buying any property in there. Basically, it's brought as part of the proposal, but they have to actually make that legal road so you don't get landlocked properties. So that's the dark blue on page, I don't know, the last page,
68,
7.
page 68.
Page 68, yes. So that's, so we will get a piece of road which was different to the piece of road that we had, and as part of the development that would be redeveloped. It's so that those properties can get legal access to their property, as every piece of property has to in any subdivision.
So it's the light blue that we're trying to provide access for?
Correct. Yeah. And we are doing that. We're going to have that dark blue will be a bit of public road, but we're shutting the grey part.
And so is there any heavy vehicles that use that, and are they going to have any access issues?
Yeah, here it is.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Heavy vehicles. I mean, it seems this is an industrial kind of area. So was any consideration given to the types of vehicles and whether this access is actually going to be suitable?
My understanding is I've talked to those people in there. You can actually see it is one lot. So basically, I presume that what they've done is actually either fits in with the development there, and I'm sorry, I haven't been down there to have a look. I could actually pick it up on but that does service those properties appropriately.
So the idea that, I mean, I guess the other logical question is, why didn't we acquire these properties for the Metro Sports rather than have to build a new road for 2 properties, which is going to create all sorts of issues?
It's Sarah who's acquiring the properties, not council.
But they're not, and that's why we have to provide a new road.
They have to provide that.
They'll provide the new road, and it'll then be vested to the council once it's been constructed, and then we'll be responsible for its maintenance.
I mean, I'm worried about the wider traffic impacts of shutting a road that, and particularly with Horatio Street being stopped. I mean, I just want to have confidence that we're not going to create huge amounts of gridlock. And when you look at places like Brighton Street, the flow-on effects from these things actually has quite considerable impacts. So, is there a kind of traffic assessment? What you're saying is no traffic assessment, and we just need to go ahead because Sarah is telling us.
This is with regard to 2 properties that would
actually,
otherwise be landlocked.
It's also the traffic that goes through Horatio Street, which does go between Stewart and Antigua. And in terms of the Metro Sports, I actually would have thought that we are going to need to have some feeder streets in. I don't think we can put all the traffic up Stewart Street.
I think what you'll find, and again, I'm sorry I haven't brought the plan of the Metro, but we have got other feeds in there, so we're not actually feeding off both those streets. We're certainly feeding off Stewart Street, I believe, in the eventual plan. And I could, we have tabled them with the council at some stage, but I could bring other plans. So we have looked at the traffic flows as part of the accessible cities and as part of some of the projects about the traffic flows that'll go around not only this, but the other anchor projects that are being proposed. And that did get built into the original overall concept plans around accessible cities.
Can we change the resolution so instead of saying supports the CCDU to proceed and stop, supports the CCDU. Can we change supports the CCDU to proceed to read notes the CCDU intention to stop, or the CCDU's intention to stop a section? And can we go back to item number 6 and do the same with that one? Because what we're doing is we're noting that that's what the CCDU can do. We don't have any say over that whatsoever.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't think that people kind of realise that the council is somewhat disempowered in that environment.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to understand, the final question for me was just, so basically they come in, they stop the road, they tell us they want to stop the road, we say, cool, go ahead, we can't do anything, it's your right to do that, as long as you tell us. They do the plan, the design of the road, they do whatever they want, whether it's safety audit or no safety audit, and then they say, council, here's the road that we've designed. Like, it seems like an incredibly cumbersome process. Why don't we just do it anyway? Like, we're going to own the land, they're going to vest it back to us.
They own the land, we don't.
They'll transfer that piece of land, that little piece of land back to us, but it's no different to the establishment of any other road around a development. Quite often developments will develop roads, they'll develop them to our standards, and then they transfer, no different to a subdivision or anything. And so they own that big block of land, they'll develop it to our standard, and then give it back to us. And the obligation is they must consult with us, but they don't actually have to ask our permission.
But if you take Balfour Street or Oxford Terrace, the Crown doesn't own those lands. That's a public road that we own, surely. Yep. And we're getting no compensation for it.
They've got the power to stop it.
They don't own it.
Yes, but they've got power to stop it, and then we have to transfer it under the conditions of the cost-sharing agreement.
That's why we're here today.
Yeah. So could somebody move, let's do 6 and 7 together. Would someone like to move that we, noting that I've changed that to noting CCDU's intention to stop rather than supporting it. Moved by Ali, seconded by Phil. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Did you say no? Yeah. Yanni Johansson declined. So, item 8, I don't know that Peter's here yet, so we'll move on to item 9. We've done that because we've done minutes. Item 10, it's my intention to have this lie on the table, item number 10. So we'll come back to, we'll bring it forward onto the agenda again when we've had another workshop on it. Right. Peter, you've arrived. Come back. Now that you've sat down, come back to the table. Item number 8.